Thank you. Ja, schönen guten Abend hier bei Paula Panke, heute mit dem Talk mit Dinara Assanova in Almaty. Heute ist sie live zugeschaltet aus Kasachstan und ich werde auch gleich ins Englische switchen, weil Dinara natürlich nicht so gut Deutsch spricht und auch mein Russisch sehr eingerostet ist. Deswegen haben wir uns jetzt auf Englisch verständigt und that's why I changed to English now to welcome my talk guest for today. It is Dinara Assanova from Almaty in Kazakhstan. Hello, Dinara.
Hello, Nadja. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of a meeting and the project.
Exactly. And we want to talk today for you about our project. We prepared digitally, we only met digitally, we prepared everything digitally, and we hope to be next year probably to meet personally. That would be very great, and to have a real exhibition. But today we talk about the digital art exhibition we prepared, which is called Pioneers of Women's Movements in Kazakhstan and Germany. It's about women who influenced the women's movements in their countries in the last 150 years. And we choose 10 women in each country. And Samal, she's the artist, but one after another. First, I would like to introduce more Dinara to you and why we came in touch with her. And the reason is that Dinara, she's historian and she lives in Almaty, as I said already, and she's not unknown to Paula Panke. So Dinara, probably you could talk a bit more about the connection to our association here in Berlin.
Yes, I'm very happy to know Paula Panke as an organization. And I'm also very happy to meet the team of Paula Panke, because everyone I have worked with in Paula Panke, they have been so professional, so nice, so warm. And I would like to mention Astrid Landero, because she was the host organization, and she was the one to supervise Paula Panke. I was there in 2017. I came through the program of IFA, and I would also like and mention IFA for giving the opportunity for me to learn on how organizations in Germany interact with women, with women's history, with women's issues, and with women's problem so that they face. So I'm very happy to be part of this project. And when I was in Berlin, I stayed there for 2 months, and I even gave a lecture about history of women of Kazakhstan when I was during one of the gatherings in Paula Panke. Mm-hmm. And I have spent a lot of hours working in your white and beautiful library. So this is how it all started. And when I left, we created a WhatsApp chat. So we kept staying in touch. And we always knew that there will be we will find a chance, and we will find a possibility to connect to each other again. So 3 years after it happened, as we see. So thanks to IFA for letting and giving this possibility to connect not only 2 organizations, but 2 countries, because I think that this is an international project that allowed us to see and compare the history of 2 different countries with 2 different ideologies in the past. So it had very different backgrounds, but still the women issues are more or less the same. And the struggles that women faced 100 years ago are almost the same. So this is what we were looking for when we were in the process of choosing these personalities for the exhibition. So it was a long process. I'm sure that Paula Panke team has also had some difficulties in choosing only 10, because there are thousands of prominent women.
Yes,
that
probably we should talk. That's right, Dinara, you are completely right, but we had a little help. We have in Pankow, it's a working group from the county, from the municipality, women who are interested in women's history, and they published 3 of these little books and collected biographies of women who were active in this municipality, in this area of Pankow in Berlin in the last 150 years, and that helped us a lot to take a good choice for the project. But probably we should talk more about the background, that our audience will understand what we're talking about, because Dinara came with a special idea to us. She founded already in Kazakhstan the organization Women of Kazakhstan, and you are collecting many biographies and artifacts and sources about women's history, because it's not said a lot about it. Probably beforehand you could talk a bit more about why you are collecting these materials and why you think that is important.
So very long time ago, around 15 years ago, my grandfather, who is a famous linguist and Turkology specialist in Kazakhstan, so he was collecting his private collection on women of Kazakhstan. And that's when he told me, Dinara, open the museum dedicated for women of Kazakhstan, because I have a lot of things to share with the world. So, but that time I was just graduating the university. I was going to be a businesswoman. I had some other things on my mind. So, but this idea and this collection that I have inherited from my grandfather is expanding. So I have been expanding this collection, buying and collecting all these things for more than 10 years. And 5 years ago, I decided to quit my job and study the history. I wanted to have an academic background, because I understood that if my NGO is going to be very closely connected with the women's history of Kazakhstan, I need to have an academic background. So that's when I went to and get my master's degree in history. And now I'm in the process of getting my PhD in history, in women's history. So that's how it all started. I hope my grandfather is happy that I'm continue what he has created. And hopefully, so my big goal is to create the museum of women of Kazakhstan. We don't have any in Kazakhstan. It will be the first one. But as a step one, I have already created virtual museum, online museum dedicated to women's history of Kazakhstan. It's now on Instagram. It's been 1 year since we're working on the website, because I have a very big database with the different sections in art, in all of the spheres where we have professional women studied, and there is also an everyday section how everyday life of women is will be presented there as well. So, and this is how the NGO was created and what stands behind this NGO. It's a family history and a family private collection that is expanding and growing bigger every day.
So, and you have a quite successful Instagram account. It is called Women of Kazakhstan, and there you present already artifacts out of your collection. Is it right,
Yes,
Dinara?
yes. I'm putting some of the objects there, but a lot of things I post there. I'm very connected with the research right now, and I don't only post the objects, even though I'm posting more on my research right now, because I think that this small things that are in the collection, they have to be presented physically, not online, because they're unique, and it takes some time to, you have to see them, so in order to admire them.
And where you keep all the artifacts now at the moment? Do you have a storage, or it's difficult
We have
to keep all these things together?
Yes, it's so half of the collection is a decoration of my living room, because there are a lot of paintings, a lot of dolls. So it's a part of my design in my living room, but hopefully it will be in the big and beautiful museum one day. And half of the objects are in boxes and stored. But I have to get them, because the storage, it doesn't have the temperature that is needed, because there are a lot of stamps, a lot of old newspapers and magazines and photographs, and I have been
special storage.
Yes.
Like a real archive, special situation for the materials and sources, artifacts. Okay, and now let's tell us or tell us how the idea of our bilateral project arose. And you had a very good idea, I think, and I really would like that you explain it to us again. What are your thoughts, or were your thoughts behind to ask us to do the project?
So once I have received the call for papers, the call for this projects by IFA.
IFA Institute. It's called the International. How is it called?
Institution of International Relations.
Yeah, it is from Germany, from the. Nobody knows what IFA is, so just to explain it.
Yes. So, and once I have seen the mail, the first thing I thought, it would be great to make this project together with Paula Panke. And then I was thinking about, when I was in Germany, I learned some things about your women's history. So I know some things about your pioneers, and I wanted to dig more, but there is always not enough time to do that. And I thought this is a good opportunity for me to see and to learn about Germany, about women's history in Germany. Now that I know the Kazakh situation, the situation in Kazakhstan, so I wanted to see what was the process and what was the evolution of women's rights and women's issues in Germany. So, and then I think choosing this female personalities from different spheres let us have this general picture on what it was like to be the first ones, what it was like to be a pioneers, because they have started something that we have inherited and we are taking it for granted, but we still should thank that generation, because it took them more effort, more strength, more power, and they were brave enough to stand for themselves and do what they wanted to do. So, and that's how this idea came up.
And Dinara, you decided then not to do just a project, but you had a really good idea of doing a digital art exhibition, and you had a special reason to do that in this way, because you asked the young artist to do the exhibition and not only presenting the historical pictures.
So I really wanted to support young female artists in our country, because there are not much projects that support this small female artists and male artists. So, and that's why I think it would help somehow to be introduced to the world, so that the world would see her work, her beautiful work.
There's some visitors in your room. And you did choose Kanta Samal is her name, and she's a young artist in Almaty, and you like her artwork. And all of you who are listening to us, watching us now, you can find Samal's work as well on Instagram. Her account is called Kantas with a Q in the beginning and then ANTRS. And what I liked is what you said in the beginning, Dinara, when you planned our project, that you want to have this art exhibition and the artwork by young artists to make this history, which is somehow for the young generation very far away, and they cannot estimate the things women has achieved already for our everyday lives, to make a kind of presentation what the young generation is used to, you know. And that's why you did choose Samal, because she's painting in the way young people like it, and she has a special view on these biographies, and we wanted to present it first in social media and on websites, because these are the areas, these are the media the young generation is using. And just to go on later with the real exhibitions, to make it more with your way to a real museum you will create in Almaty one day. And I think that is a really good project to start with, and that was for both learn from each other about the histories, the biographies of both countries. And I think there are really some similarities, even if the countries are very difficult, but the women, they're struggling a lot, and they're still struggling. We see it in the pandemic situation at the moment, and we see it here as well in the art exhibition, because we wanted to present you today 20 biographies, but we have already 4, because our artist, she became ill as well, so, and she couldn't finish her work in time. So we hope to go on time step by step and to present after one another the pictures of Samal.
Yes, so I would like to tell a little. So the reason why the digital art, because first is because of the COVID, I knew that the situation is not going to change soon. And that's why I thought it would be good to have this digital art sent to both countries so that we can print it and have our own exhibition and not depending on this logistics and transportations. And I think this will let us to do the exhibition anytime we want when we will have the art. And the second reason for choosing digital art is because digital art is now very popular among young generation, as you said, and we will try to attract them not only through these unique stories and biographies, but through the language they understand, through this visual language that they understand and that attracts them. So I think that the young generation will gather some new information from these exhibitions that we will have.
What do you think, Dinara? Shall we show some works now for the audience who probably hasn't seen anything?
Of course.
Okay, so then I share the oh, I can't share. Wait. Okay, can you see me again? I was shortly out of...
Yes, now I can see
okay.
you.
And I wanted to show the picture. Okay. Now you can see the picture of Agnes Wabnitz, and the very special today is her 180th anniversary, and she was one of the women who fought in Berlin for the rights of women, especially for the textile workers. That's why you can see this sewing machine in the background. And unfortunately, she committed suicide in the end of the 19th century because she was, it was in that age that women were not allowed to join any party, and she was imprisoned actually in 1886 and went on a hunger strike. And then she was supposed to send to mental hospital, and she was very much afraid to be declared underage because of her activities for women's rights, and that's why she committed suicide in 1894, and that was such a huge event for the people in this time. They had more people to come to her funeral, and she got more flower wreaths on her grave than even the emperor had on his tomb. And that was a really famous graveyard there in Berlin, where she committed suicide, and where people came to commemorate her. And because she was so such a impressive or important person for women's rights, especially in Berlin, people today came to this place to commemorate her. So that is one of the pictures who first was finished by Samal, and we put it on our website on Paula Panke. So I try to give you the URL, and then you can find her biography in German and English if you want to read it. I just have to find it on another browser. That's why it takes a bit of time. Sorry for that. So I can show you this probably now, another sharing. Okay. So here you can see it on our website. It's www.paula-panke.de, and here you can see some pictures of Samal. You will find a description of the project. Here you find a small video already about the making of, and a bit information about Dinara and about the IFE Institute. And here are the women's portraits. And you find here for Agnes Wabnitz both biographies. You can read it in a whole, as PDF in English or in German, how you like it. Okay, now we did show one of these works, and I think people like it very much. And yes, I don't know, probably we should talk more about the situation of the women today. I was reading a bit, and it is really, it makes me really angry, because the pandemic situation brought really big difficulties for many women, because so many women are working in social care works, in education works, in shops selling things, and they suffered most from the pandemic situation. Many people, many women worldwide lost their jobs, and they had a real burden by these unpaid care work, and as well they were facing more violence because of this situation, that they had to stay at home. So the inequality in the whole world for women, the inequality in the societies became more. So it is actually what we do not want to have. And I found today a study made by McKinsey, and they are not very well known for fighting for women's rights, I think, but they also found out that the inequality became out of balance for bad part for the women, and that is not good as well for the society as for the economy. And probably we can talk a bit more about why it is important that we have equality in societies, and why it is important to talk about women in history and about women today. Dinara, what do you think? You are a historian, you study dealing a lot with these kinds of things, so probably you can tell us your thoughts about it. We can't hear you, Dinara. You have to switch on your microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
So yes, we have the same in Kazakhstan. I think every country in the world is now facing this imbalance, and the level of domestic violence is also going very high during this pandemic. And it is also very hard for academic workers, like for researchers like myself, where when the libraries are closed, the archives, we can't access the archives, and we have to stay home, and we have to be the major caregivers because kids are home. Schools are not, so schools are closed, open, so you never know what will happen and when you can let the kids go to their schools or kindergartens. This is another big problem that women face, because in most of the parts of the world, they are the major caregivers. They are women.
Unpaid as well. It's an unpaid job. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unpaid job. So this pandemic, of course, it have affected the quality of lives of female all over the world. And but I think we have to get used to it, because we never know what will happen next year. Now, when the world is in the situation like this, the vaccination processes, but all these new types of viruses, they keep coming into the environment. So, and that's why I really wish every female in this world to gather themselves and try to find new ways, new solutions to get and to seek for some new I don't know, some new ways of living, because we don't have any other chance, and we can't exit it any other way unless we will find some solutions. So
and
as
Dinara,
for the
and I don't know how you feel, but when I look back in women's history and I see how bad the situation was, I was reading the history of the one Kazakh woman who is a medicine. I can show her as well. It's probably quite interesting. I put her on the website as well, so you can see it. Is Gulsum Asfendiyarova. And if you read about her story, there are so much of they really created something new what wasn't there, and they were fighting for good medical care for mothers and young children, and for education. So I think always this is very impressive to read that these women who were in a much more difficult situation, who didn't find any structures of getting their rights, that is very helpful, I feel, and I think that's why it is so important that we do things like we did this year to show these biographies, to give women the strength to see, yes, if you have an idea and you think you're right, you can fight for it, and you will reach something. You always can reach things. And I think if we say today to women, you're doing unpaid care work, and because you are doing unpaid care work, you cannot work as much as your partner is probably, and the problem is then that you have less money, and then you are in the situation that you have to stay at home and to care more for your family, not only for your children, but probably for elder family members. That's why you are in the circle, but it's not a natural law. It is just made by society, and we can talk about the situation and we can change structures, and that's why we show the biographies of these very strong women. And I think that is what you is making the project, and to fighting for your museum to make visible which important part of mankind women have. It is half of humankind. So we cannot just say these people are not here.
So the main idea of my NGO, of my research, of my online museum, it's all about this empowerment. I wanted people to see, I wanted women to see that there were some of them like you, some of them aged like you, some of them that are professionally engaged in the spheres like you, And they could do this. They could achieve they could gain a lot of achievements. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, it was very much more difficult than it is right now. And this is, yes, you're right, this is what it is all about, the inspiration, the empowerment. So once they will learn about these biographies, once they will dive into their lives, they will see that it took a lot of struggle for this woman and it will make their own lives, maybe it will be easier to overcome the problems that they face, and they will feel more empowered when they will
to make lives
to
change their life, probably, or to give them at least another perspective. So, and I think by the internet it's easier to reach. So we are working at Paula Panke in Berlin on a very local level, I would say. So we have a network in Pankow, but we are connected as well to the whole city of Berlin, to different other organizations, to politicians and to artists, and as well the whole country for a bit via our social media channels. And I think in this way, from underneath, like a grassroots movement, we can show this. And I see it that politics somehow becomes aware of the importance of that. And we see it on a very low level, the difficulties of the women, because we have these shelter flats we provide from our society by social workers, and we make these help of when they have some questions. And we thought in the pandemic situation that when it was a lockdown, it was that less people reached us for help, but right after the lockdown was stopped, it was rising up this need to find some help. It was not only the violence, but it was as well to the burden the women have to carry, or to more than before, in all social levels, I would say, because I was reading that scientists, as you said before, they didn't publish any in the lockdown. Mothers didn't publish any papers, but men in opposite, or male scientists, were even more productive. So there you can see the big gap. So that is, we didn't reach equality in so many fields in the society, even if we have it in our laws. So you were writing it in the project description that in Kazakhstan, it was written in the beginning of the 20th century. I think it was in 1917 or 18 already, the complete equality of women and men in society. And in Germany, it was 1 year later, after the civil revolution in 1918. But we still have a long way to go. So what do you think? What should our next steps be, Dinara? What are your ideas of it?
So I think we should continue introducing this woman, introducing the stories with the public, and these exhibitions can help to learn more. I was very amazed by the way women's organizations work in Germany.
Okay.
Because I was taken to one of the monthly meetings, I think, of Berlin's Association of Women, where all organizations from Berlin, they gather, they discuss, they have their own needs discussed, and so they gather and they have this collective, they have collective goals, and it is much easier to work with the government, with the private sector, with the public, when you have this structure. We don't have it in Kazakhstan. And I was really surprised to see as a role model. And when I came back, I even thought of having this round table to gather these organizations, because we all know each other, but we never discuss the grants, we never discuss our goals, we never discuss some things that we are planning to do. We're like going our own separate ways. But when I was sitting there on the meeting, as Astrid, she explained me the whole process. And I think this is something that Kazakhstan should learn from Germany. And I still have that plan in my head that someday I will be gathering the organizations just to tell them what is happening in Germany in terms of organizations that are connected and related to women issues. So, and I think this way your work with this communication is getting much more attention from the state, from the public, from the private sector. And I really wish this could be multiplied in all countries.
Yes, I hope so. So do you have some organizations you could contact to do this? Are there some more organizations like yours in Almaty in Kazakhstan?
So there are no organizations that are related directly and related to the women's history, but there are a lot of organizations that are working in mass media, in women's empowerment. We have around 100 organizations in Kazakhstan that are somehow connected to women's issues, including violence, including equal pay, including empowerment. So, and we more or less we know each other, but because sometimes we see each other on conferences or on some other public events, but they're not dedicated especially for gatherings of these women's organizations. So we have to learn how to be partners, because we have never done this before.
So I can tell you that it's really process, a democratic process, and we spent a lot of time in that. So we have a local gathering from Pankow, and another bigger one for the whole country of Berlin, so for the whole city, that I think you were talking about, and it takes a lot of time, but it's really important. So we noticed it this year, because right after the lockdown was finished, the Berlin Senate, it is who makes politics, the decisions for the city, decided to cut off our expenses, the expenses for our organizations, and that meant actually that we could even do less counseling and support for women in need. And there we organized a huge protest campaign. It was not only in social media. We've been before the in front of the Red municipality in Berlin, the Red House, on the day of violence against women. It was on the 25th of November, and there we were talking about the situation, and but that was important to do that, because the shortening of the expenses were taken back, and we had support as well by the new government for Berlin. We had the elections, and politicians supported us, but we are still in a very unstable situation, and we notice that the topic equality is not very well estimated still in politics, even if it is connected to all parts of our society and will influence all parts of our society. So I'm not sure why it is not seen, because the connection to economy is very strong. If we have well-educated women who could not work because they do unpaid care work at home, that couldn't be the solution. We have a huge problem in Germany of educated workers, well professionally trained workers in various fields. And we have a huge problem of female people, pensioners, who get not out enough money because they couldn't work enough in their working life because they were caring for children and so on. And that is a circle which is known, which is scientifically researched, and we really need to be stronger. You know, you say we have the structures, but we feel, or I feel, that is still not enough. So we need to go on, you know, we really need to go on. And I think it is very helpful that we can learn from each other, you know, that you've been here and you learned a bit about us. And now we look at Kazakhstan and learn about these structures there and about the women in the biographies. So I think that is a really good way to go on and to empower each other from time to time.
Yes, yes. And hopefully next year there will be a bigger part of this project when we will be able to have physical exhibitions in Berlin and in Alma-Ata. And I hope we will meet in person.
If not, Dinara, we do it not next year, but the year after. You know, we just stay in touch and
Yes.
get in contact, and we go on publishing the biographies and publishing a small book about it. Next year we were talking about it. So you have the project page on our website, and one day your website will be ready as well, and there you can publish it in Russian language. So we only have it here in German and English, but in Russian we could add actually as well. That is not a problem to put the biographies in Russian as well on our website. So, and the thing is, one question, I can't see that if there are any questions in the chat now. I will ask my colleague. Have a look on my telephone. Just okay. No, there seems not to be any question. So, Dinara, so if there are no questions anymore, I would say we made a very good round thing about the art exhibition, the history of women in both countries, the situation at the moment, and how we go on. And I see now there are no questions. Then I would say thank you very much to you, Dinara.
Thank you.
5 hours forward, so it's much later in Almaty at the moment. And I really hope to see you next year or the year after. Personally, it would be a real great pleasure. Thank you very much.
Me too.
Dinara.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure to work with you for this project, and hopefully it will be successful. So
it is already.
It will be last.
It is already. Thank you very much.
Thank
Dinara.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.